ほう、向かってくるのか。逃げずにこのディオに近づいてくるのか。
近づかなきゃてめえをぶちのめせないんでな。
ほうほう。では十分近づくがよい。
Now, I want to preface this video by saying right now that Sonic Origins is not the worst game in the world. It's certainly not the worst Sonic game. Hell, it's not even the worst Sonic compilation game. For some younger fans, this game makes a fine introduction to the early Sonic games of the 90s. But for us more seasoned Sonic veterans, you're probably gonna understand where I'm coming from with this. If I were to describe Sonic Origins in one word, that word would have to be lackluster. Like, there was definitely a passion for this at the beginning of the project, but it just sort of feels like it burned up far too quickly. I figured a good way to structure this video would be to alternate between what Origins did right versus where Origins came up short. I try to be a positive skunk wherever I can, and focusing too hard on the negatives can just sort of be a buzzkill. So, why don't we kick things off with something Origins did right? Origins features amazing animated cutscenes at the beginning and end of each game in the collection, all done by the talented Tyson Hess. And seriously, huge props to Sega for getting him on board. This is the man that saved the world from the abomination that was Ugly Sonic. Well, until the Rescue Rangers movie dug that corpse up.
Go, sir. Oh, baby.
You can't be here! You're dead!
I feel like at this point Sega really just need to get this man on their permanent payroll because he works magic on anything Sonic related. I just sort of wish, given the collection only has 4 games in it, that we had gotten a few more of these sprinkled throughout. Like brief zone transitions, maybe on Supersonic's Unlock. Nothing too big, just fun little snippets. And if my only complaints were I wish there was more of all this great stuff, well, I would be a very happy mammal. Unfortunately, like I just alluded to, this collection is
Small.
like teeny tiny small. 4 games in the initial release being Sonic 1, CD, 2, and 3. You could make a stretch and say, but actually that's 5 games because Sonic & Knuckles is of course combined with Sonic 3. However, given Sonic & Knuckles was always designed to be part of the Sonic 3 experience, I'm not gonna give him that. Now, we did get somewhat of an expansion for Sonic Origins when Sonic Origins Plus released. And while I'd really hoped in this paid-for DLC update of the game we'd get a few more classics, well, the monkey paw curled. And we got 12 Game Gear titles. Tails Sky Patrol, Tails Adventure, Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble, Sonic Spinball, the Game Gear one, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, again the damn Game Gear one, and Sonic Blast. Remember when Sonic Adventure DX came out and they threw these Game Gear games at us back then too? But, you know, they were free. You unlocked them by collecting a set amount of emblems. Listen, more games is good. It's always good. But if you're asking me to pay extra for these 12 Game Gear ROMs,
Brother,
that is going to be a hard pass for me. The price tag for Origins Plus is kinda egregious for what's on offer here. And while absolutely 0 living souls were asking for the aforementioned Game Gear editions, you know what would have been cool? Knuckles Chaotix. Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic R, Sonic the Fighter, Sonic Battle, the good Sonic Spinball, Mean Bean Machine, you know,
Sonic
the
Shuffle,
good one,
Sonic
again,
Adventure,
Sonic
Sonic
3D
Advance.
Blast. Sega actually has a pretty extensive back catalog of Sonic games that have just either never been re-released, or just haven't seen a re-release in the past decade. And this would have been such a cool place to include these here. But instead, we just got the Game Gear ports. And I mean, not even the Master System versions of either, but the Game Gear versions. Do you know what it's like trying to play anything on the Game Gear? That's a stupid question. Of course you don't. These chunky things are so ancient, they can be carbon dated. But I do. Look at this. The screen crush is ruthless, beyond unplayable for some ports on this console. The graphics are pretty crunchy, and look, I know we're talking about retro games here, but I swear, even the Master System versions of these games look better. And to top it all off, this sucker fucking gargles batteries. 6 AA batteries is but a humble snack to this monster.
It hungers for more!
But, I mean, I guess at least playing the ports means you don't have to deal with that part of the experience, so, you know, that's... Oh, come on, those were brand new! But swinging back around to the positives, we finally have a version of Sonic 2 that you can access the Hidden Palace Zone in. That isn't on a phone. The Taxman's port of Sonic 2 for phones has always been a hugely popular port of Sonic 2. Hell, I'd go so far as to say that it is the definitive edition of Sonic 2. If, you know, you weren't limited to experiencing it on a cell phone. And honestly, all of the versions of games, with one notable exception in this package, are great like that. Sonic 2, Sonic 1, and Sonic CD are basically the definitive editions, boasting features that really improve the core experience. Stuff like Hidden Palace Zone, Super Sonic and Sonic 1, playable Tails, Knuckles, and now playable Amy in all 3 games. This is all great stuff! This is the kind of stuff that I love to see in ports, and the reason I initially was so excited for Sonic Origins in the first place. The extras and cool stuff they added in for the adventure mode for the games. And speaking of extras, amidst the snazzy island menus, we even have this great museum hub for all the unlockable artwork, music, and videos. Personally, I kinda think Sonic Mega Collections did this just a little bit better, but look, it's still pretty good. Okay, it's still something.
Look how they mess with my boy.
And of course, the pendulum swings back to the negatives. And I mean, you knew this was coming. At least, you should have known this was coming if I did a good job with the foreshadowing. And that is the butchering of my favorite game's soundtrack. Listen, if my videos have taught you anything, it's that I am a huge Sonic nerd that has an absolute fixation on game music. Music is the soul of any good video game. Sonic games, Resident Evil, Final Fantasy, Mega Man, and it should never be phoned in. If the Sonic community can agree on one fucking thing, it's that Sonic has a reputation for fire music. But what Sega did to S3K's soundtrack is... it's blasphemous. It's heresy.
It's murder.
Most of you will know that there is kind of a messy affair around Sonic 3's original soundtrack. How Brad Buxer and Michael Jackson had their involvements in the original soundtrack. And how Sega have been a little, well, sheepish when it comes to using the music for those zones again. But Sega have re-released Sonic 3 and Knuckles before, without having to mangle it this badly. Many times, in fact. In fact, when I saw part of the game's deluxe edition mentioning having additional music tracks from Mega Drive / Genesis titles, I'd actually figured, oh, that's a clever way to get around the issue. They've obviously reached out to the Jackson Estate and Buxer and organized some kind of way where they can include the music that they contributed, but at an additional charge, so players are having to pay that extra, but they get the original music. That's really clever. It turned out that additional music for Mega Drive games actually meant mislabeled songs from other games that you can only listen to in the museum. Like you can't even listen to it while you're playing these games. Sega, do you realize it's 2024? Like, we can just go to YouTube and listen to these tracks. You realize this? Now, I'm sure to some of you, this point is minor. Hell, maybe even completely negligible, right? I mean, they had backup music snagged straight off the Sonic and Knuckles PC collaboration from back in '97. Only, I mean, have you heard these tracks? Absolutely awful. These sounded so bad, even Hidden Palace Zone tweeted to Sega, "Hey, we have the prototype music that, sounds good. You want it?"
No.
And this, to me, is Origin's biggest offense. Sonic 3 and Knuckles has released 12 times since its initial Mega Drive debut. And with each of these releases, the soundtrack has remained unbungled. I don't know if this is a case of Sega just not wanting to ask the right people, or were worried about backlash from these entities. But Sega, if they were going to complain that their music was being used, wouldn't they have already done it the last 11 times you released this game? Or did you ask them and they expected some kind of financial compensation? Like, I get it, times are tough, but if you're trying to pose this collection as some big celebration, don't skip out on the most important parts. Now, there is a fix to this, thanks to the efforts of the community, which is to install Hedgemon Manager and grab a mod to unfuck the music. Sega really is so lucky to have these amazing devoted people in their community, picking up the messes and going, with a couple of years of my own hard work and polish, we can maybe make this good. But this fix, if you can even call it that, is, well, PC exclusive. If you decided to play this collection on the Switch, well, enjoy Carnival Night Zone. And so, that's my take on Sonic Origins. Its remakes of 1, CD, and 2 are great. The animated cutscenes are gorgeous. The variety of playable characters is really cool too. Assuming you're shelling out for Origins Plus. But it really just left me wanting more. This collection was basically a surefire hit. Fans had been very vocal about wanting the Taxman games, and after Sonic Mania's mega success and with Headcanon working on this, hopes were high. Maybe that's the problem. People's hopes were too high on Sega nailing this one. Then we had the pre-order confusion, the music malfunctions, the bugs in the game, the price. This was Sega's time to take a win. It was their game to lose. But I don't want to sound overly negative here. I want to see Sega succeed. After Frontiers and the big announcements for 2024 with new Golden Axe, Jet Set Radio, Streets of Rage, Shinobi, there's a promising future on the horizon. and I genuinely hope that Origin's shortcomings aren't indicative of things to come. But I guess all we can do for now is wait and see. So, until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves.